Hello, everybody. Vasu Vada Party Charlie O here. Casey Freelove on assignment on this episode of the Make the Money and Run podcast. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. We'll talk about that with the Oakland A's. The Minnesota Twins were very unlucky in that game. The San Diego Padres have gone into a tailspin. The Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from them. They got swept by the red-hot Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, and a couple of day baseball games that have gone late and one final. We'll get to all that. The NBA, the Phoenix Suns are red hot. They got 2 big wins this week. Warriors slipped against Washington yesterday after a big win against Philadelphia, and the Utah Jazz continue to stay ahead of Phoenix in that regard. And then Philadelphia and Brooklyn keep the top 2 spots. And those Washington Wizards, we laughed at them all year, and all of a sudden they're in the 10th spot in the NBA Eastern Conference, and now they've got a chance at a playoff. So that's what we've got on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vada Party Charlie O, powered by Stables Media. How are you, Charlie?
Vasu, I'm great, man. And all the things you talked about just are making sports, making baseball fun. The NBA playoffs, all of a sudden, the pictures are starting to come together and things are getting interesting. And all of a sudden now, we were kind of like a little ho-hum about this 7-10 tournament. And all of a sudden now the 7-10 tournament is going, woo, this looks like it can start getting fun. So I think it's going to work, and I think it's going to be fun.
Vasu Vada Party Charlie O. You can catch us on Facebook Live and also the YouTube page. If you missed any of the live broadcasts, we're here every Monday, Thursday, Friday, 4:15 Eastern, 1:15 Pacific. If you missed any of the live broadcasts, as I said, you can download Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts as well. All right, let's move on. Let's start with the NBA here. We talked about the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. I have this odds up here in a second. Not a lot of games here tonight, but during the week, boy, what a week it was in the NBA. How about the Phoenix Suns? I know we liked them from the bubble last year, Charlie, when we were in the pandemic, and Devin Booker has really shown himself to be a star. Chris Paul, I don't know why Chris Paul is not getting a lot of MVP talk, because I think he's a big difference for that team. But the Phoenix Suns beat the Milwaukee Bucks on Monday night by 1 point with Antetokounmpo in the lineup on the road. And then they beat the Philadelphia 76ers with Embiid last night. And they were an underdog against Milwaukee, but they were a 3-point favorite, which I didn't look at it. I was following baseball yesterday, but apparently a lot of people are starting to take notice of Phoenix Suns, especially in Las Vegas, because they were a 3-point favorite over the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday. They did win by 3, but that's 2 wins against quality Eastern teams. And we know how tight the West is between them and Utah and Denver and the Clippers and the Lakers right now. Of course, the Lakers are going to get Anthony Davis back on Thursday. But how about those Phoenix Suns, Charlie?
Yeah, they looked really impressive. And that game was absolutely wild. First of all, really scary moment early in that game. Embiid went down. And everybody kind of just, the small crowd that was there sucked all the air out of the arena, because it was like, oh no, oh please, please, please. But he was able to come back, and that game very competitive all the way. But how about the ending of that game? As Embiid realized they were running out of time, and through this prayer of a shot from underneath the basket on the complete other end, banked it off the glass. The ball actually went into the hoop, but then bounced back out, which would have tied the game. I mean, it would. I mean, we would have been watching that shot a decade from now. It's gone in. But the point is not that it was a prayer. The point was the basketball IQ for him to realize that he was out of time and to make that shot. Now, it would have been a prayer. Okay. I mean, it was not
no doubt about 92 feet away.
It was never going to be viewed as what acumen he had as a shot. But it was the IQ of realizing where he was, and at that moment he had to do it. But what an entertaining game. But you're absolutely right about CP3. I mean, this guy has been resurgent. They've brought him into Phoenix, and it's not just that he's there and playing well. They have obviously embraced him, and they have figured out how to use his skills, which I think is what was lacking in the other places where he's played. They are letting Chris Paul be Chris Paul, and he is able to do that with those younger players, and they are playing great basketball. And, I'm not sure they'll overtake Utah, but they still have a chance to overtake Utah, which is pretty amazing.
Well, just checking the standings here, I believe they're still only a game back or 2 games back of Utah. Utah had their big win. They had the big loss on Saturday in overtime to the Lakers. They come back and pound the Lakers on Monday night by 24, and then they beat up on Houston. So not really stiff competition. Of course, the Lakers without Anthony Davis, LeBron James, but they did get their 2 wins, and they stay ahead of Phoenix in that series. But moving over to the Eastern Conference, we talked about Philadelphia a little bit. Surprisingly, the Philadelphia 76ers are still in first place in the NBA East because with all the things that they're going through and the losses that they had 2 losses this week to Golden State and yesterday, as we talked about, to the Phoenix Suns. They're still a game up on the Brooklyn Nets in the loss column, a half game overall. But you got to think that with Joel Embiid back now and Ben Simmons finally finding a spot there, they've got shooters on that team. Tobias Harris, very underrated. Seth Curry there as well too, and they've got shooters, but Doc Rivers has got them playing defense. I know the scores don't indicate that, and we'll see it over the next few weeks as the NBA season winds down, the regular season winds down. You'll see who's playing defense, who's not, and from the wagering standpoint, you'll see it on how the over-unders go. They're not going to be in the 230s. They'll be in the high 210s or the 220s coming down the stretch for this NBA. You can see the NBA odds at the bottom of the screen scrolling across as we have 6 games tonight in the NBA, Charlie. Well, what about the East right now with the Nets and the Sixers?
Well, I think we're going to learn a lot about the 76ers over these next few games because they have a real opportunity to take advantage of the Nets because the Nets are a team right now that are living on the injury list. You've got Harden, who may not be back during the regular season. He's not going to miss the playoffs, they don't think, but he may not be back for the rest of the regular season. KD, who knows what's happening there right now with the injury situation there. And Kyrie, he seems fine, but can Kyrie carry that team and put them into first place? I have a little doubt about that, although I never want to underestimate him. You know, I mean, every time you go to underestimate Kyrie, you go, that was a mistake. So I don't want to underestimate him. But the 76ers right now have a prime time opportunity to hold on to that number 1 spot. And it's going to tell me a lot about their internal desire, their flame to win if they take advantage of this. Now, we know Doc wants that. And we know Doc will be preaching that and trying to get them to take advantage of that. But I want to see how the players respond, because if the players buy into it and they take that advantage, and let's face it, playoffs are about taking advantage. You know, they don't want people to get hurt. Nobody wants people to get hurt. But when you're trying to win and you're trying to win in the NBA and the length of the playoffs, you have to take advantage of any opportunity you're given. And right now they need to take advantage of that opportunity of guys being on the injury list.
That's Nevada Party, Charlie O here, powered by Stables Media. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live and on YouTube, on our YouTube channels as well too. Please feel free to send any comments. Get to us any way you can. If you missed the live broadcast, you can download and subscribe. Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. A little more NBA talk with Charlie here. Casey on assignment. He'll be back with us tomorrow, 4:15 Eastern, for the weekend preview of the NBA and MLB weekend that we've got coming up as we get closer to the NBA playoffs and move closer to May 1st for baseball season and kind of get a better idea of what's going on with baseball. But a little more NBA here. Let's go to the bottom of the conference, the 7-10 games in the Eastern Conference. How about those Washington Wizards? I mean, we talked about it at the beginning on the Open. Boy, they came out and played well against Golden State. I mean, I thought that game was over. I saw the last 4 minutes. I didn't realize I was in the middle of the A's game, so I didn't see how the Wizards came back and ended up beating them. But Russell Westbrook has turned it around a little bit these last 2 weeks. And anybody that hasn't watched Bradley Beal play, I'm glad for Washington because they're in the playoff hunt now that they did not trade him. Otherwise, they would be unwatchable right now. The fact that Bradley Beal's there at 32 points a game or somewhere in that neighborhood, and Westbrook coming up with triple doubles. They're in 10th place right now. They're a game ahead of the Toronto Raptors, who have all sorts of problems between Lowry and Siakam and guys not playing. And I don't know what's going on over there. They did have injury problems. And they're only 2 games back of the 9 spot in the loss column of the Indiana Pacers. And really, only 4 back with 15 games to go. Only 4 back at the 8th spot of Charlotte and Miami, who's in 7. I mean, they could go on a run here. You said 2 weeks ago that you said if they got any of their defense going with the way that they score and go up and down, Hachimura, the sharpshooter that they have, I forgot his name, Bertans and Westbrook and Beal and Hachimura, they play any defense at all. They can rattle off wins. And what they did last night, considering what the Warriors did on Monday night, Charlie, against the 76ers, tells me that there could be a problem in that 7 to 10 slot. If in fact they do stay in that 7 to 10 slot, they could move up, because from the 4th down, they're all very close in the Eastern Conference in terms of separation.
Absolutely. And I have to give credit to my man, Chuck, the round mound of rebound Barkley, because he's the one that I got that from. He said, man, you got to watch the Wizards, because if they get into that 7 to 10 tournament and they win there and get into the playoffs, they are going to be tough to deal with, and they could win a first round in that tournament in the playoffs, and then they're going to be tough to deal with. And Vasu, in that last 4 minutes, I didn't watch the game. I watched Game Time, and it was Bradley the Real Deal Beal that did the damage in those last 4 minutes, man. I mean, and it was the Warriors were playing tough, but man, he just took over, and that's why they won. And so they are going to be a force. And thanks to Chuck, man, he got me watching those guys, and I think they are going to be a force, and I think they're going to make it fun.
Everybody on the point spread world and in the wagering world, watch out for the Washington Wizards now, because those point spreads are not going to be as high. We talked about it on Monday. You weren't with us on Monday, but I talked about how the Washington Wizards were 12.5-point favorite, and I'm going, when did that happen all of a sudden? Now we know what's going on with them. All right, Washington, Indiana, Charlotte, Miami. The 7 to 10 seeds there. In the West, Dallas, Memphis, Golden State, San Antonio. Memphis was a favorite yesterday. I didn't see the box score. I don't know if Paul George played or not, but I know Kawhi Leonard did not. But they ended up losing on the road. Go ahead,
Paul George did not play.
Okay, so Memphis was a 3-point favorite without George and Leonard. Clippers have guys on that team, and they've got a bench, and I think people are still underestimating them. I'm not underestimating them as a Lakers fan. I'm definitely not, because their bench is clearly where it's at right now, because they can rest guys, and they've got guys that can shoot. Patrick Beverly's on the injured list as well too, but and Ibaka as well too. But they've got players on that team, and they got a 117-103 victory over Memphis yesterday. Memphis still a game above 500 in the 8th spot. The Warriors, the loss last night is 29-30. San Antonio has got Detroit tonight. They're a 7.5-point favorite over the Pistons tonight at home. You would think it'd be a San Antonio game the way they're playing. And then the Pelicans, after blowing the lead against the Nets the other night on Tuesday night, they are in 11th place. They're 4 back in the loss column with 58 with 14 games to go. So it's getting a little close right now. We could be looking at Dallas, Memphis, Golden State, San Antonio. Anthony Davis is supposed to play tonight. The Dallas Mavericks are a 2.5-point favorite, 217. We'll put the NBA lines up here real quick as they're going across the bottom for everybody to see. But 2.5, and 216. I'm sorry, that's not the one I wanted. That's the one I wanted. 2.5, 216. Dallas playing tonight against the Lakers. I would think that obviously the Pelicans in a little bit of trouble here, but Phoenix and Boston, we talked about that. That's one game definitely look at. How about Phoenix being a favorite in Boston? Because Boston never is an underdog at home, and they're just struggling right now. They don't shoot. I think they're still recovering from COVID. Jason Tatum a week ago said that he has to use an inhaler now to kind of get over the symptoms that he had from that. Philadelphia 76ers off their loss. They're going back-to-back with the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. That's going to be a great game. I'm assuming TNT has that game. But an 8-point favorite still seems to be a lot for me for Philadelphia, because you never know which Bucks team is going to play. 225 to total. The way Milwaukee scores at home, I think that game will probably go over. And then we talked about San Antonio, 8.5 over Detroit, 217.5. The totals are starting to come down a little bit. And then Dallas and the Lakers, probably the second game, the best second game going tonight at Dallas minus 2.5, even with Anthony Davis in the lineup. So where are you looking at in the NBA right now, Charlie, in terms of, let's start with the 7 to 10 that we were talking about, because we did in the East. So go with the 7 to 10 in the West, and then what are you looking at tonight from the NBA?
Well, they're kind of breaking away a little bit in the West now. You look at that. You got Dallas, which is not really surprising. Them being in the 7th spot. The Grizzlies are improving, and we thought that could happen if they stayed healthy. Golden State, they I mean, Steph, for heaven's sakes, you I don't know. I know that all the talk about who should be MVP and blah blah blah, and if you don't win the championship, should be. Oh my gosh, people, come on! Have you watched the man play basketball? And then San Antonio. I'm happy for Pop. I'm just happy to see Pop. I mean, people watch Pop's teams play ball. It almost is immaterial who he has on his teams. This guy gets more out of whoever is playing, has San Antonio on their jersey, than anybody that in basketball. It's an art form. So they're there. New Orleans is still has a shot, although they're falling back.
Yeah,
and that's kind of
Brooklyn on Tuesday really hurt them the other night because they had a big lead. Brooklyn came back. You just can't underestimate the Brooklyn Nets, and they're playing defense right now. And you mentioned James Harden, and you mentioned Irving, and you mentioned Kevin Durant. James Harden seems to be the point guard of that team, and their record is unbelievable since they got traded. And I know Kyrie looks for his shots. KD, you don't know what's going on with KD as well too. But they've only played 7 times with each other, and now Harden's going to be gone the rest of the regular season. So that could help the Sixers and hurt the Nets in terms of standings. But you just got to think that from an MVP standpoint, James Harden's right there with Embiid. I still think Embiid is right there at the top. Jokic is right behind, and then Curry and Chris Paul and the guys that we mentioned earlier. But as far as the games that I like tonight, I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns, and I just can't stay off them for some reason because they're good. And the fact that Boston's kind of shaky in the way they're playing right now. Even at home, they lost to Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, and they've had home games. They had a 15-point deficit. They came back against the Warriors on Saturday night, but that was very shaky, and I just don't trust the Boston Celtics right now. They're in 6th, so see how it goes from that standpoint. And then it's a separation in the East. We said Milwaukee's 3, and then it drops like 5 or 6 games back down to Atlanta. So you got to figure the top 3 seeds are pretty much all set. It's just a matter of how they're going to finish and how Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn are going to play. And then in the West, the Denver Nuggets without Jamal Murray, we had this conversation, or I had this conversation with you guys last Friday. Jamal Murray not being in the lineup has not stopped Denver. They're in 4th in the West. They're ahead of the Lakers by a couple of games. Lakers are going to get it. LeBron James back. Anthony Davis will be back tonight, according to all reports. And give Jokic credit. Give Mike Malone credit. I know you have a thing for Mike Malone as well too. Yeah, they've got things going on over there really well. And the Clippers, even though Kawhi and Paul George don't play games, and they're just kind of winding towards the end of the regular season now with 15 games left, Tyronn Lue has got them playing well, and they're a cohesive unit. Zubac is even playing well in the middle. They rebound really, really well. And their 3-point shooting this year is unbelievable. Their 3-point shooting, I think, is like 38 or 39%, maybe more than that, like 42%. But that's about a third of their points is for 3-point shooting. They just don't miss. And their defense is starting to come around as well, too. So as we wrap up the NBA here, as we look at the odds on the screen here, I'm looking at Phoenix tonight at Boston, and I'm still debating on, by the end of the show, I'll have a pick on Milwaukee, Philadelphia, because that's 8 points seems a lot to Philadelphia to me, considering what's at stake here between first and third in the standings. And San Antonio 8.5. Sometimes you never know about Detroit, and San Antonio has their moments where they just go into slumps. And I think 8.5 versus Detroit will probably be good. But they're trying to hold on to that 10 spot too. And with a little cushion with the Pelicans, it may not be as important as it is tonight. Anything left on the NBA for you on the screen, Charlie, in terms of the games?
Well, you look at that Phoenix Boston line, and man, that is so tempting. Especially
for who? I mean, Boston's an underdog. They're never an underdog at home, though.
I know. I mean, what I'm saying is to go with Phoenix because of the way Boston's been playing. And the one thing you mentioned though is I'm concerned about what Tatum's been saying about the ongoing effects. Having to use the inhaler and everything else. I am concerned for players' long-term effects. We've kind of because of all the positive stuff about COVID and recovery and everything else. I am concerned about long-term effects for some of these guys because we're kind of overlooking the effects of the long haulers and all of that kind of stuff that we're still dealing with out there. And I really hope. Well, the NBA medically is looking at this because that's what they do. But it's a little scary.
No doubt about it. Vasu Vada Party, Charlie O here. Casey Freelove on assignment. He'll be back with us tomorrow. 6 games in the NBA tonight. Phoenix, Boston, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Lakers, Dallas head up. We've got more NBA to talk about tomorrow and a full weekend of games as we wind down the last 2 weeks of the regular season before the play-in tournament. We're going to take a break now. We're going to go all baseball here for the next 20 minutes. When we come back, 30-second break. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast powered by Stables Media. And back in 30. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Charlie O, Vasu Vada Party here. Casey Freelove on assignment. Welcome back. We talked the NBA. We're going to hit baseball here a little bit. You can catch us Monday, Thursday, Friday, 4:15 Eastern, 1:15 Pacific. We're powered by Stables Media. If you miss any of the live broadcast on Facebook Live or the YouTube page, you can download, subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcast. We appreciate all the Facebook comments, all the notes we get and all the questions we get. Those of you that missed earlier that were expecting John Parado on the other show conversation with, he had internet problems, and so we were unable to do it, but we'll bring him back on because he's a really good guest, and he'll talk NFL draft, and he'll talk baseball, and he'll talk sportsbettingdime.com as it relates to the wagering side. All right, I'm a little distracted here, Charlie, as I was telling you before the show here, so if it comes off a little bit, I'm watching the Diamondbacks and Reds game. I'm still not exactly sold on the Arizona bullpen because they had an 8-4 lead. The Reds have hit 6 home runs in the game, and they just gave up 6 runs in the 10th inning. Arizona has a 14-8 lead. I have the underdog in this play, which is a pretty big play against those red hot Reds right now. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates got a win in Detroit, so it's a 2 underdog day today. I'm not counting my chickens yet, even with a 6-run lead in that Arizona bullpen. So I'm only going to be distracted slightly now. In fact,
especially not a Great American ballpark.
But let's get into baseball here a little bit. We talked about the Oakland A's. Let's start in the American League. Boy, it's sometimes, like you said at the beginning, it's better to be lucky than good. And when you get into a big winning streak like this, you're going to have luck in this. Talking about the Oakland A's, I mean, they had no business winning that game. They're pitching. Montas did not look good yesterday. They were down a couple of runs. Nelson Cruz had another monster game in Oakland. He's been known to do that over the years, and he hit 2 home runs. Josh Donaldson, I think Rocco Baldelli outthought himself by pinch running for him because then he was not at third base for Arias' throw. I mean, but when you're on, Charlie used to say this phrase all the time when you did play-by-play, watch basketball. I said, when you're hot, you're hot. And when that ball, I was out somewhere yesterday, and I was watching the end of that game, and I had that, and I'll explain why I had that at the end, but it tied into a couple of other games, the Angels and Rangers over, and then the other game I had, I can't remember what else I had, but anyway, it ended up being 3 games, and it ended up working out well for me because of the wins. So it worked out that way. But the 11-game winning streak, Charlie, you see the A's. I mean, they're playing great. I mean, they did get lucky yesterday. Montas didn't pitch great. The bullpen did not look good. Sergio Romo gave up 3 runs when it was 7-7. But 2 errors in the 10th inning by the second baseman, and then Arias' overthrow. But give the A's credit. They got the runners on base to get to that point because they gave up 2 runs in the top of the 10th. Byron Buxton, I love this. My new favorite term from 2020 with the new extra inning rules. Byron Buxton lead off 2-run home run, gave the Twins a 12-10 lead, and then the A's got the 11th run on the air by the second baseman, and then the overthrow, and then they end up getting the win. 11 in a row. They're at 12-7. They're a half a game ahead of the Seattle Mariners, who are playing a lot better than I thought, and I think a lot of people thought as well, too. They're a half game up. The Red Sox and Mariners will open up a big series today. The Red Sox, how about the Red Sox? The AL East division is turned upside down. They're 12-7. They lost yesterday to Toronto, but they're going to host the Seattle Mariners for 4 games this weekend. We're going to see and get to know a lot about the Boston Red Sox and Seattle Mariners as we go into May, Charlie. But talk about the American League West. And the Angels, they're pitching. I don't know what to make of their bullpen because they got beat by the Rangers yesterday 7-3. That was the over I had in that game. That was when I was thinking about over 9. And then all of a sudden, the Rangers take off and get 5 runs on that Angels bullpen in the 8th inning yesterday. So it all tied into everything yesterday in terms of how that worked out for me. But talk about the AL West here a little bit, Charlie.
Well, first of all, the A's. What an incredible story. You start off, you lose 6 in a row, you go 6 of 7 to open up the season. You go, oh my gosh. And we talked about it. The A's have always come out of the chute slow. Fortunately for them, they decided to turn it around faster than they normally do. And now they've won 11 in a row. And why did they win yesterday? Well, 2 things. One is, and I love it because this is where this new start a runner at second in extra innings comes into play, because
I still hate it.
Oh no, man, because this creates strategy. And so they pull Donaldson because they want some speed. Okay. So they pull it, they put the speed out there. So now what happens? They have less defense out there in the bottom of the 10th, and it cost them the game. Well, wow, that's great. It creates strategy. So
but
now
nobody uses the strategy, Charlie. I haven't seen them bunt down by the visiting team has to go for more runs. I don't see the home teams if it stays tied. I don't see them bunting. I don't see any sacrifice. I don't see any strategy going on there.
Yeah, it is. It's creating all kinds of wild stuff, man. That was the game yesterday. And for the A's, no quit. See, they believe themselves. They just don't quit. Now, I know it was bad defense, but you don't win if you don't get runners on. You don't get the thing going. And so was it great baseball? No, it was horrible baseball, but it was fun to watch. Was it great baseball to wager on? No, it was horrible.
You're telling me.
But, it was fun baseball, and now this is the 3rd time since they've been in Oakland that they've won 11 in a row. Their longest win streak was 22 in a row. So that's
Moneyball, the movie
Moneyball era. But what, 2002, I think.
Yeah, 2002. They won 20 games in a row.
20 games in a row. So how long? I forget. I was there covering it back then. I forgot what I had for lunch yesterday. But anyway, it's pretty phenomenal to see what's going on with them. And when a team gets hot like that, they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they just don't think they're going to lose. So that's pretty interesting. And that team can hit. And again, folks, here I go, Mr. Weatherman. Okay, I'm Al Roker Jr., but daytime baseball at the Oakland Coliseum, that is the time you want to watch because they score a lot of runs in the daytime at the Oakland Coliseum because the ball flies. So there you go. Park that in your head. Remember that. Daytime baseball at the Oakland Coliseum. Otherwise, in the West, yeah, you're right. Seattle, okay. Now, the question is, will Seattle be playing that kind of ball after the 4th of July? That's the key question. If you're a Seattle fan, for you, I hope so. Jury's still out. Angels, yeah, they need a bullpen. That's just where it is. Rangers, who knows? And Houston, they always scare me. They always scare me. So I don't know. But Vasu, one thing I just got to jump in real quick. Baseball in the East yesterday. I was thinking about it with Houston because they had one guy. I forget who it was, but somebody made web gems yesterday because it was just a phenomenal catch. But was it nuts yesterday in the East? They've had that crazy set of snow. Bunch of snow back there.
Oh, rain. It snowed before the game in Cincinnati this morning. Yeah.
Everything else, just nuts. And it has nothing to do about playing baseball in April now. I mean, because it shouldn't happen. This just should not happen. And I just felt so bad. Laureano last night was not Laureano.
Francisco Lindor.
Lindor got his first home run for the Mets yesterday in Chicago. And that poor guy had a turtleneck and a hoodie on under. I don't know how he could swing. It was incredible, but such is the weather. But yeah, the West is interesting, and particularly I think that as we watch the race come down, I think it's going to be a 3-team race between the A's, Houston, and Seattle's the way I think it's going to shake out.
Early big season series between the Astros and Angels tonight. I have the pitchers here. It's who is it going for the Angels? It's Javier and Alex Cobb going for the Angels tonight. Christian Javier and Alex Cobb going tonight in Houston. If you don't get it on your TV, it's on YouTube tonight. So you have to get on the computer to watch the Angels and Astros tonight on TV. All right, the Central Division to me, kind of the weaker division right now. The Kansas City Royals still are right there in the lead. Cleveland's starting to play better. They've had a tough series with the White Sox right now. The White Sox, they're injured. Lance Lynn just got put on the 10-day DL. I still think it's a Chicago White Sox division. I just don't think the Indians hit enough. Minnesota, boy, they can't play defense like this. They're injured, but they've got to get guys back right now. And Jose Barrios has been their only good guy in the rotation. He pitched well the other night in that second game of the doubleheader. They lost 1-0 to the A's in the middle of that winning streak. I mean, talk about how hot the A's are. Is exactly how cold the Minnesota Twins were after this weekend as well too. Nelson Cruz is playing well, Josh Donaldson's playing well, and Jose Barrios is pitching well, but they just don't have the guys right now. Taylor Rogers is okay in the bullpen, but it's not the type of start that they wanted for Rocco Baldelli. But you got to figure that when the weather warms up, maybe the home run hitters will come back. Miguel Sano just looks terrible at first base, and he strikes out a lot. But those are their options right now for Minnesota. And then Detroit, I mean, God bless Miguel Cabrera is still there. And it's like Akil Baddoo has been the story of Detroit this year. They lose to Pittsburgh today, 4-2. The Pirates go in there. The Pirates, I was going to talk with John Prado about this earlier. Pirates have 9 wins, and nobody thought that we were going to get – I think we had their over-under at 60 wins or something like that. Or less than
59.
59 and 103. They're gonna get to 59 wins. They play baseball in that city. We'll get to the National League in a second, but the Rays have turned their season around a little bit. They blow a 9th-inning lead to Kansas City last night. Diego Castillo, usually reliable, did not hold on to a 9th-inning lead to Kansas City Royals walk-off. And then in the American League East, the Yankees, boy, what's going on with the Yankees? Talk about not playing defense. The Red Sox and Tampa Bay are at the top. Toronto's in the middle. Baltimore is 4th, and the Yankees have the worst record in the American League. Talk about the AL East a little bit and how we're looking at it upside down, Charlie. Because nobody thought the Red Sox were going to be as good as they were coming into the year. And Nathan Eovaldi's been great. Their bullpen has been really good, and they've got guys that can hit on that team. Two former Dodgers, Verdugo and Hernandez, are there leading the way for them right now. And Eovaldi actually was in the Dodgers system years ago, and he pitched that. For those that don't remember Nathan Eovaldi, he pitched the Game 3 of the World Series in that extra inning game, and he saved the bullpen by going 8 1/3 innings in that extra inning game before losing to Max Muncy's home run in Game 3, the only win for the Dodgers in that 2018 World Series. So he's been their ace, an ERA of 3. They won on Monday on Patriots Day against the White Sox. When we did our show on Monday, Patriots Day and the Boston Marathon all took place, but they blasted the Chicago White Sox on Monday, and now they've had a good series coming up with the Seattle Mariners coming up this week.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the run differential for the Red Sox, plus 27.
Right.
I mean, holy cow. I mean, no wonder they're winning games. The other thing that just jumps out at me, Vasu, is they're 6-1 on the road. I mean, when you're playing that well on the road, I mean, you hope to go 500 on the road. And they're doing very well on the road. As a matter of fact, the irony is they're 500 at home. I mean, really? Okay. But they're playing great road ball. That's that's an anomaly. They're going to start taking advantage of that park. They're probably having a little bit of a rough time at home right now because it's still cold in Boston. And as the weather warms up, they'll be able to take more advantage of that ballpark. But here I go, my weather again. I know, sorry, folks. They're going to be there. The Blue Jays, I think they're adjusting really well to being in Florida.
They can hit. The one thing they can do is hit.
They got a plus 10 run differential. I think they're taking advantage of having that short porch and right center field down there. And they, I think they're an amazing team in the fact that they have been, they've been on a diaspora for the last 2 years. They had to be in Buffalo last year, and now they're down in Florida. And it's kind of like, okay, just give us a ballpark and we'll go play. We need to play in the park across the street on a little league field. Okay, we'll do it. And they just, you don't hear complaining. You don't hear anything else. They just go play baseball. And I think that's really good. The Yankees, holy cow, with that lineup,
yeah.
I mean, you have to believe that they'll get that turned around.
And who's going to pitch for them? They don't. Corey Kluber is your second starter behind Garrett Cole, and even Garrett Cole's not winning right now, and their defense is terrible. Their defense is costing them games right now, and they're 6-11 coming into today. They've got a series with the Cleveland Indians, who have been okay, but this is the time for the Yankees if they're going to get healthy. They've got Herman going tonight against Aaron Savali in Cleveland. It's a pick'em game, which last couple of years would have been minus 160, minus 170 with Domingo Herman and Aaron Savali, an 8 total on that game. And that would have even been higher in years past. Right now, the Yankees are not playing very well. Boston's a 162 favorite over Seattle with Nick Pivetta and Justice Dunn. Houston, the other American League game, 121 over the Angels, 9 flat on the total with Christian Javier and Alex Cobb. All right, let's move to the National League here a little bit. The Dodgers are 14-4. Part 2 of the continuation of the series with the San Diego Padres starts tonight. Walker Buehler and Ryan Weathers. And Ryan Weathers looked really good on Friday night. That was the extra inning game that they had. That's the son of David Weathers. For those of us that are old enough to remember, David Weathers, a reliever with the Yankees and the Seattle Mariners that were pitched during the World Series days.
Who?
David Weathers.
Oh, okay.
David Weathers. Ryan Weathers is the son.
It's I know. I just forgot.
Okay. Ryan Weathers, the left-hander, goes up against the Dodger lineup. He shut down the Dodgers last week. The Dodgers were able to get the runs and get the extra inning win, and they took 2 out of 3 from San Diego. Now they're in LA. As I said, Walker Buehler goes tonight against Ryan Weathers, $1.70 favorite for $1.67 favorite for Walker Buehler. The Miami Marlins travel eastward to face the San Francisco Giants tonight. Aaron Sanchez will go up against Castano, 141-8 for San Francisco. Chicago, they got the bats out yesterday. 16 runs finally. They hadn't hit a lick at all, and they took it out on the Mets, and they put some whoop 'em on them last night. I had the Mets last night with Peterson. That was the one loss I had yesterday. David Peterson did not look good with all the walks, but the Cubs put up 14 runs, and they were living it up a little bit. 9.5 the total tonight with Joey Lucchesi, former Padre, against former Pirate Trevor Williams. The Mets a slight favorite at 111 tonight. Let's talk about the Central Division here a little bit with the Chicago Cubs. Everybody thought it was going to be a rebuilding year with them, but I just got a feeling that they're still going to be there. They're still going to be there at the end. Cincinnati Reds, right now 14-9 in the bottom of the 10th, 2 on and 1 out. So obviously the Diamondbacks bullpen has given up a run already, and now they're a batter away from getting the tying run in the on-deck circle. So I'm still a little distracted here, even with a 6-run lead. But we'll see how that works out. We'll see how that works out for me. But it's going to be interesting to see. The Reds can hit. Eugenio Suarez is playing shortstop. He's not exactly the most mobile guy, and that hurts their defense a little bit. And they do have problems on defense a little bit with the Reds right now. Mike Moustakas is on the 10-day DL, 10-day IL right now. And so, and Luis Castillo, their ace, has had their worst performances this year. And they started off at plus 31 in the run differential after the first 10 days. And now I think they're at plus 20 or plus 22.
Plus 20.
Plus 20, and it's going to go down after this game, depending on what happens here with the rest of the 10th inning in the Arizona game. So, but here's the team that I thought was going to be really good at the beginning, and they're proving me out right. If you're wagering on the Milwaukee Brewers, not only do you wager on the Milwaukee Brewers, take the total over, Yelich out right now, but Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns, the 2 aces for the Milwaukee Brewers right now, they are not household names, but they will be come July because they're both going to make the All-Star team. Brandon Woodruff, about a 2.5 ERA, open the season for the Brewers. They're going to go to Chicago this weekend. It's going to be a big series to see if the Cubs bats get hot or not. But Brandon Woodruff is going to be in there in one of the games this weekend. I don't have the rotation. We'll have that tomorrow. Have you heard the story of Corbin Burns? Not the guy from Major League, not the LA law lawyer, not the actor. Corbin Burns, the right-hander for the Milwaukee Brewers, has an ERA of .44. But that's not even the most amazing thing. And even ex-ball players locally here, Mike Krukow was talking about it. He's from St. Mary's in California, out here in Lafayette. Corbin Burns has 40 strikeouts in his first games. And how many walks do you think he has, Charlie?
I have no clue.
donut hole. He has not walked a batter this year. He has struck out 40 batters. It's unheard of. It's unbelievable. He has not walked a batter this year. And it reminds me of the year Dennis Eckersley had 3 walks in 1988, and the second year as a reliever with the A's. And Vin Scully had the greatest line ever. And I remember this because they were playing the Dodgers in the series. He said, "You know, you've had a great year as a pitcher when you know who you walked by name."
That's true. That's excellent.
That's typical Vin Scully. But anyway, the Milwaukee Brewers are 11-7. They did have a little rough stretch there. But here they are. Travis Shaw's back there. He's hitting the ball. Keston Hiura's playing first. They got Vogelbach, hit 2 home runs the other day. They've got the Cubs this weekend, and I'm looking for a 2 out of 3 against the Cubs this weekend because I don't think the Cubs are that good. Even Kyle Hendricks struggled the other day in his outing. He gave up 4 home runs to the Braves on Sunday night the other night in that 6-run first inning. And now you've got Woodruff and Burns coming in like this. Their bullpen, Josh Hader. We all know about Josh Hader from playoffs past. He's still got his stuff. And they've got Devin Williams. By the way, if you didn't see Devin Williams last year in the 2020, he was Rookie of the Year. 53 strikeouts in 26 innings with that changeup, the devastating changeup that he has. They've got it all going on. And I really like Milwaukee coming into this year. And I was a little surprised at their start. They did lose 2 out of 3 to St. Louis to open the year. But the fact is that they're a good team. They're 11-7. And I think that their pitching, even more so than their hitting, is going to take them past Cincinnati, Chicago, Pittsburgh. We know where Pittsburgh is. That's an unfortunate situation, but Pittsburgh's better than we thought they were. Mm-hmm. And then St. Louis is worse than we thought they are now because they're tied for last with the Pirates. Actually, they're a half game back officially because the Pirates win today, Charlie.
I got to tell you,
40 strikeouts and no walks, Charlie. That's unheard of by May 1st.
It's unbelievable. You know, it's funny. I was watching the highlights of that win they had yesterday over the Padres, and you know, there's so many players now in so many games, you just get lost sometimes. And I'd kind of forgotten about Hader, and he closed that game out yesterday. And the final batter he faced, I forget who it was. He for the last strike, it was a called strike 3, and he brought one up. I think it was 95, 96 mile an hour fastball, brought it up right about the neck. And the batter swung, looked bad. No and as an umpire, a former umpire, I know exactly why the batter swung, because when those kind of pitches come up, because of the level in the eye, well, you played ball, you know, those kind of pitches start off, and the way they look, they come up looking like eye candy, and they look like a softball. And then by the time you start to come around, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I swinging at? And just boom, it's done. And I'm thinking, man, he's so on. He is so on, because you don't throw those kind of pitches. That's not accidental. You have to be working at it to make those kind of pitches work, because if you miss, you're throwing that thing down the pipe and it's gone. And I'm thinking, you know, I forgot how good he is. I just really forgot. And I'm telling you, man, they're putting it together. And then when I didn't know about that strikeout, right now, and no walks.
He's must-see TV right now. The next time he starts, I think he pitched on Tuesday or Monday against the Padres. The next time he starts, he's must-see TV over the weekend.
I will do that for sure.
The Cubs this weekend.
But
David Andrews, real quick, Charlie. I wanted to thank David Andrews from Facebook. He's a loyal viewer and listener of all the podcasts at Stables Media. Great show.
Thanks, David.
Comment for John Prado. So appreciate that, David. Thank you. Keep tuning. Pass it along to everybody. We need more subscriptions here, David. I know you're doing your part with us. But let's get back to the baseball. Let's talk about the National League West for a little bit. The Dodgers are 14-4. Padres have lost 5 out of 6. I mean, I know the Brewers are good, but, you know, everybody talked about the Padres being the second best team. The Giants are in second place now after their 2 out of 3 over Philadelphia. The National League West right now, the Dodgers are at 14-4, and they did lose the game to San Diego on Sunday, and then they lost back-to-back games on Monday night. They lost to Seattle, and then they got the 1-0 win on Tuesday, and now they're going to open up against the Padres at home with Walker Buehler tonight. But 14-4 is ridiculous to start. Padres are 10-10. The Giants are in second place, 3 games ahead of the Padres. And what have the Giants won on? They've won on pitching, because they're not doing it on hitting. Their starters have been really good. Yesterday, Logan Webb the other day, a little shaky, and then the Giants lost yesterday in the ninth inning, but they had a lead. But their clutch hitting has been really good, Charlie. Talking about the San Francisco Giants, because they were down, and Darren Ruff hit the game go-ahead home run until the bullpen blew the lead late, and then they ended up losing in the bottom of the ninth inning. But talk about the National League West. I still think the Giants are good enough to finish in second. I'm just not sold on the Padres completely. And I know the Padres are injured, and the Tatis injury has hurt them a little bit, but Joe Musgrove has been great. Now they've got Lamet back. He looked pretty good yesterday in 2 innings. Jace Tingler didn't make him go longer than 2 innings yesterday. So we'll see how it goes. But I just got a feeling that it's still going to be a 3-team race right now.
Oh, I think it's going to be, I mean, surprisingly, and I've got to tell you, surprisingly, I think it's going to become a 3-team race. By the way, Lamet, when he went out yesterday, that was because of tightness in the forearm.
Right. So I got to watch that again.
So, we're going to have to watch that situation and see how that comes out. But the Giants are playing surprising baseball, and you're right. Pitching is the key there. And they can stay competitive if the pitching stays strong, because the pitchers are playing in a ballpark that was built for pitchers. Even though they've changed the dimensions in that ballpark, that will still always be a pitcher's ballpark because, oh God, here we go, because of the weather and especially nighttime weather there. That always is a good pitcher's ballpark because of that situation. And so they are surprising there, and they've played great at home. They're 5-1 at home right now. So that's they're 5-1 at home and 6-6 on the road. There we go. 500 in the road and positive at home. The thing that blows me away, Vasu, is the Dodgers 8-4 on the road, 6-0 at home. I mean,
2 sweeps, the Washington Nationals, Colorado Rockies, 2 sweeps right now. I mean, it's going to be that way all year, and they've got the hitting. They've got everything going with them right now, going well. I mean, Mookie Betts got injured the other day, and that hurt them a little bit offensively. They only got 1 run against the Mariners yesterday. I had a lot of texts sent to me about -1.5 on the run line against Seattle on the road. I go, those run lines are tough on the road. It's like, hey, we got a victory of the Arizona Diamondbacks. They only got 2 in the bottom of the 10th, 14-11. Arizona, the final score. The Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Tigers 4-2. That's a 2-0 day to start for me. All right, let's go back.
It's not like they didn't try, though.
Yeah, no kidding. They had 2 on with 2 out, and Joey Votto struck out to end the game. So they did 2 runs back and the tying run at the plate. So let me turn off my MLB TV here as I got that. Bossy Vada Party, Charlie O. Casey Free Love on assignment. This is Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Powered by Stables Media. You miss us on Facebook Live, YouTube. Thanks for the comments. David Andrews and everybody that supports us on this podcast as well. You can download and subscribe on Apple or Spotify or Google or anywhere you get your podcasts. We appreciate all the support we get. We're getting viewers and listeners every day, Charlie, so we really appreciate that going into it. We're here 3 times a week, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. All right, the National League West as we continue. Dodgers, I mean, gosh, it's April 22nd. I don't want to say it's going to be a runaway, but they sure look good. Even Trevor Bauer hasn't even pitched that great, but Kershaw looks very good. He didn't look good in spring training at all. And then Walker Buehler, who goes tonight, is clearly the ace of that team now. And the way he threw in the World Series in the playoff last year against the Braves and against the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series, you just expected big things to come out of him. And so far, so good. I don't know what his ERA is, but I think it's in the 2s somewhere. And then David Price. And here's a story that I wanted to bring up because the Dodgers have had problems with their bullpen the last few years, and there were guys that I talked about that should not have been on the team. Pedro Baez is one of them that always used to just be the bane of my existence. They've readjusted their Dodgers bullpen to the point where they've got more arms now, so they don't have to go to Kenley Jansen day after day after day because he gets worn down, and it wore him down in some of those playoff years. He was worn down, just like Kershaw was worn down starting pitching. Now they've got the starting pitching, and this is going to be more important than what they do offensively. They can afford to get rid of a couple outfielders like Kike Hernandez and Jock Peterson because they've got Mookie Betts. They've got Justin Turner, who's having a great year. They got Muncy, who walks a lot and hit home runs. Bellinger's on the 10-day IL. They're there, and they're going to be there, and the National League should be very wary of them, and I think they are, being 14-4. They're so stacked. But the one guy I want to give props to and is David Price. I mean, he's a veteran guy, starting pitcher his whole career. but he's doing what's best for the team, and he's coming in critical situations, the seventh, eighth, and ninth innings, and he even closed out a game. He got a save last week. I forget if it was against Seattle. No, it was over the weekend. Whoever they played over the weekend, the Padres. He got a save, his first save in 12 years that David Price got since he was a rookie with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Then when they were going to the playoffs in the World Series in 2008, that was his rookie year. He got a save in that Game 7 against the Red Sox. This was his first save. He has not complained once. He opted out last year, so when they gave him his World Series ring for the Players Alliance, he's also donating the proceeds of an auction for his World Series ring from last year because he felt like he didn't play and he didn't really want to do it. And he wanted to do some good with it. So they're going to auction off. He's going to auction off his ring in terms of the Players Alliance to help older players, older African American players from that standpoint. So good on David Price. He's got a good. He's a Vanderbilt guy, another one of those Vanderbilt pitchers. But good on David Price and the fact that he's come back and is thrown in spurts in these 1 or 2 innings because they've got Buehler, you've got Kershaw, you've got Bauer. You've got Dustin May, who threw yesterday. Didn't look very good against Seattle the other night. And then they've got Gonsolin as well, too. They've got guys on that rotation. I'm blanking on the fourth starter right now, but they've got guys in there. And David Price got beat out by Dustin May for the 5th slot. I mean, that's not easy to do. That's a veteran guy who's had success in this league. So what does the National League West have to do? They have to bide their time and hope the Dodgers go into a slump right now because that's the only way it's looking right now, Charlie.
Well, and I don't think the Dodgers are going to go in that big of a slump. But I want to go back to David Price for a minute.
I'm going to let you say that, being the Dodgers fan, not me.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. I'll be happy to say that. But I want to talk about David Price for a second. I've liked David Price his entire career because I don't think there's a better attitude guy in all of baseball. I remember when he got that save when he was back with the Devil Rays. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, well, how did you feel coming in? And we won.
We're going to the World Series.
I mean, this is a guy that loves the game. And he is willing to do whatever it takes. He likes to play the game. He likes to pitch. And he'll do whatever. And he has evolved as his game has evolved and doing whatever else. And hey, look, if the Dodgers don't want him, there's a lot of teams that'll take him and he'll make your team competitive. Just a great athlete and then even a better attitude. And what a neat thing to do. Hey, thanks for the World Series ring. I didn't really deserve it. So look, I can do some great work with it. So I'm going to auction it off and help some ball players. That is just so cool. And I hope that every media outlet that covers baseball will take that and just tout that, because ball players these days get beat up because they make money. Okay. And I just really hope everybody will grab that and say, look, here's a guy that could have gone around and, flashed the bling. And instead he's taken it and said, hey, let's do some good with it.
Well, I mean, he's going to get a lot of play. And there's going to be a lot of people that notice it because the Dodgers are so good. They're going to be on national TV every time. So it's going to be brought up to begin with. So I can already see the schedule coming my way after the All-Star break. They're going to get every Saturday game or every national broadcast game when you're allowed to change the schedules. All right, before we get to picks here, let's talk about the National League East. There's not a lot of good pitching going on in the National League East between Atlanta, Philadelphia, the New York Mets, the Washington Nationals. Max Scherzer was vintage Scherzer yesterday, 1-0 win over the Cardinals. Oh, that was the game. That was the third game I had. Max Scherzer's 1-0 win over the Cardinals yesterday, and the Cardinals bats have really, really, really gone down but Scherzer was awesome yesterday. And it's not easy to pitch a 1-0 game in that ballpark in Washington. I know the weather had a lot to do with that, but that's an offensive ballpark in Washington that they have in DC. So Washington, Strasburg's on the injured list. Scherzer's there. Their bullpen's shaky. The Atlanta Braves, Mike Soroka is still not back with them, and their starting pitching's a little shaky too. They hit the ball against the Cubs over the weekend, and I don't know who they're going to. We'll have all the previews of all the weekend games this weekend. But I just got a feeling that it's still the Atlanta Braves division. But I like the way the Mets are playing, even though they got hammered yesterday by the Cubs. I just think Lindor brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of defense to them, and it seems like Edwin Diaz has kind of settled down in the bullpen that ninth inning, and then they got Trevor May from the Minnesota Twins as a free agent, and he's kind of settled down that eighth inning as well too for the Mets, and that was their biggest problems going into games was the seventh and eighth inning, and then Edwin Diaz had all those blown saves last year for the Mets after coming off of a really good season with the Seattle Mariners. So, National League East, Charlie. Before we get to our picks here in the next 5 minutes, give me your quick takes on the National League East.
Well, should we say parody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think as it shakes out, I think it'll be the Braves and the Mets that'll be looking there. But I'm watching the Marlins too. The Marlins started off really stinky, but then all of a sudden here we are. They're 8-9. They finally got they just barely got a positive run differential. But you know what? They're the only team in the East that's got a positive run differential. Yeah. And so they're 7-3 in their last 10. So I think they're going to be a thorn in everybody's side in the division for the entire season. But it's still hard when you look up and down the Braves roster and you look at that whole situation, unless something catastrophic happens injury-wise to that lineup, it's really hard to believe that when things shake out that they're not going to win that division.
Yeah, I got to believe the Braves have the division. I'm just sorely disappointed in the way the Phillies play. They've got the offensive numbers. They've got that ballpark there. Their bullpen, I know Hector Neris has taken a little guff from the Philly faithful. He's had a pretty good start to the year, but I just got to think that what happened yesterday, you just can't blow leads like they've done the last 2 days against the San Francisco Giants. The Marlins, I like the Marlins a lot. They're coming into San Francisco this weekend. They're going to. We'll see how good San Francisco is. We'll see how good Miami is. For the Giants' sake, I think a 3 out of 4 would be a successful series for them. I think if they split, they won't be as happy based on the fact that they're at home. And if the Marlins come in, they're without Marte, and Don Mattingly's trying to piece together that pitching staff as well too, and he's done a great job with it too. Nick Dieter just got sent down, but they're one of the guys in there that's going to go on. So 4 games with the Miami Marlins in San Francisco this weekend as well. Okay, you see the odds at the top, you see the odds scrolling on the bottom. It's time for our picks segment. I'm going to let Charlie go first with the picks. We're doing pretty well lately. He's got 2 picks today. Go ahead, Charlie.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of picks today. We're going to start off with baseball. And speaking of San Francisco and Miami, I'm going to take the Giants on the money line -150 over the Marlins in tonight's game. And we'll start it off that way. By the way, so, we talked a little bit about this being a 4-game series. I hate 4-game series. So often, what you're looking at really is a 2-2 split.
It's a wagerer's nightmare because you don't know which games to take and which games to go against.
Exactly. So I just absolutely hate them. Then over the NBA, I'm going to take the Pels -8.5 over Orlando.
Really? They didn't scare you the other night after the Brooklyn game?
Nah.
Okay. I know Orlando's struggling. All right, let's move on to my picks here. The Dodgers are going to open that series against the Padres, who've lost 5 out of 6. They got swept by the Milwaukee Brewers at home. The Dodgers with Walker Buehler, the aces on the staff. Dodgers are hitting on all cylinders right now. They come off a split in the series with Seattle, -167 against the Padres tonight. The San Francisco Giants, I am going to go with the Giants as well too. I got it early, so my line's at -141. Aaron Sanchez has pitched really well for them. In the NBA, it didn't scare me enough. I'm going to take the Phoenix Suns -1.5 at Boston tonight.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to look at other games too and check out the social media pages if we have more picks. And I'm going to go hockey. Colorado coming back after their COVID tracing, contact tracing games. +53 is their goal differential. The Vegas Knights, who play San Jose tonight, they've also, after their last win, got to +53 as well. So those are my 4 picks tonight. The Dodgers, the Giants, and Major League Baseball, Phoenix in the NBA, the Colorado Avalanche tonight. All right, Casey Freelev will be back with us tomorrow. He's Charlie O. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. You can check us out on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 4:15 Eastern, 1:15 Pacific on Facebook Live and the YouTube page as well. Download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Download, subscribe, rate, and review. For Charlie O, I'm Vasi Vadaparty. Have a great afternoon. And as always, Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow, 4:15, for the Friday version of Make the Money and Run.